Hello, hello, welcome back. So I'm going to be talking in this video about mostly the Tom Ford 06, also known as a cheek brush, versus the Rephr 24, which is a cheek brush. And I also threw in two others that are very popular cheek brushes that people are probably going to ask about, but I'm mostly going to be focusing on the Tom Ford cheek brush and the Rephr cheek brush. So just looking at them straight away, they do look very similar in size, both in hair length as well as in sort of fluffiness and how thick they are. So the Tom Ford is notorious for being quite dense for a cheek brush. And the Rephr 24 was also notable when it was first released for being quite a thick and very dense cheek brush. And I'm going to be applying blush on both cheeks, one on each cheek, and you will be able to see the results for yourself if my camera decides to focus any day soon. And let's start with the Tom Ford. So the Tom Ford has this heavy handle. It might be ebony. It's lacquered, engraved, gold font, beautiful, gold-plated ferrule with the clear coating to prevent scratching it off, and then very silky, smooth goat hair. If it was officially graded, it would be Saikoho. And because this brush is super dense, it can have the tendency to apply too much blush. However, because it is so thick, you can just overblend and practically erase everything you apply. So I'm going to be using it to apply this baked formula. This is the, what's it called? Clinique Cheek Pops. And then because it is so dense, it picks up product super quickly. I'm going to be applying the Tom Ford on my left cheek. And then the way I apply with this brush is basically just bouncing it on the skin. And then as I apply, because the whole surface is rounded, it blends the product in beautifully. Super quick blush. Now let's try the same thing with the Rephr 24. Before I talk about that, this is my first Rephr brush. I think the 24 is part of the permanent collection, meaning they've gone through all the prototypes. They're not going to do any more new versions of it, so I think this one's here to stay as it is, which is what I was waiting for before I got Rephr brushes. This is my only one so far. And straight away, you can see the manufacturing is not quite as slick. So you can see this little bit of a drop off between the ferrule and the handle. So this is just a matter of machining and how precisely they want to do it. It's not a big deal. It's just a cosmetic thing, but it is it's to be expected because this is a much lower priced brush than, say, the Tom Ford or the Hakuhodo S, which I pulled. But overall, the hair quality is quite soft. It does noticeably have more texture, if you can see that waviness to it, a little bit more texture to it than the Tom Ford does. But it's not super noticeable. Well, it's kind of noticeable, but if I blinded myself and had to feel it by fingertips, I wouldn't be able to feel it most of the time. There are a couple spots where I can tell, okay, the hairs are a little bit more textured, but on my face is not as sensitive as my fingers. I can't feel it. So again, super thick, big dense brush. Pat it in the pan, picks up product easily. And then I'm gonna apply it to my face. So I think the verdict is they're pretty darn close. It does take a little bit more pigment, I've noticed, with the Rephr brush to pick up and apply as much as the Tom Ford brush does. Hence why I went back into a pan for another dip and I'm reapplying. And something I've noticed with the Tom Ford, and this is probably due to the fact that silkier hairs, is that there's a little bit more of a satin glow, especially if your formula has a little bit of shimmer or satin shine built into it. The Rephr applies makeup like this a little bit more matte, but unless you were really looking for the details in the mirror, you wouldn't be able to see it. So my verdict is that the Rephr 24 brush head wise is a pretty good substitute for the Tom Ford 06 original which was natural goat hair. Looks, of course, it's not going to be the same, but hey, you could probably take some chrome paint and paint the ferrule. I'm too lazy to do that, but I have done that with some of my other brushes before. And then I know I'm going to get questions and comparisons to how does it compare to the Wayne Goss 12 and the Hakuhodo equivalent, which I no longer own. So I can't talk about that one, but I can talk about it in relation to the Wayne Goss 12. So Wayne Goss, this is the old version made of the dyed goat hair. This goat hair is probably the most similar to the Rephr 24. The Tom Ford 06 is a little silkier, straighter, and less textured. But in terms of brush size, the Wayne Goss 12 is a little bit smaller in length and in thickness, and it has a lot less hair in it. I would say probably up to 40% less from my patented squeeze test. So it's not as thick, it's not as dense, and it's not as long, but it is smaller and more controllable. If you noticed how when I was applying blush with these two brushes, it kind of just went on my cheeks, and it has a really large area of coverage. If you have a smaller brush like this, you're going to get a little bit more control over the area of coverage, and that's why the 12 is called a sculpting brush by Wayne Goss, because it's meant to be a little bit more precise for sculpting. It has this flat topped edge. Both the Tom Ford and the Rephr, however, have this domed topped edge, which makes it great for blending as you apply, but less great for precision. If you don't have a very big face or very much cheek area to apply blush and you really have to be more controlled about it, I would pick different brushes. I would not pick the Rephr 24. They're super, super fast workhorses, and they're great as eraser brushes. Like if I applied my contour too strong, I'll grab one of these two and like really blend over it to blend it out and also remove pigment so it looks less harsh. So having said that, if the Rephr 24 and Tom Ford 6 won't work for you because you have a small face and you need precision, a better option for you to consider would be the Hakuhodo J110. This is the S version, but it's another cheek brush that's made of Saikoho quality goat hair. And we'll officially call it Saikoho on the website anymore, but it's very silky and soft. The reason why I would recommend the 110 is because of this sort of tapered, almost like diamond shape. It gives you more precision because you can use this small surface area to apply blush versus this whole big curved area. So you have much more control over where you're patting and putting the blush down and blending it. Because it is still curved, it still does apply and blend product in seamlessly, just not as quickly as this one. And then part of that is because this brush is less dense. It's much more loose and airy and has less hairs in it compared to these monsters, which have like half cat in them. But these are fantastic feeling brushes. They do feel very luxurious, and that's something I admire about the Rephr handles. They are weighted, so it's not like the Hakuhodo Takumi series where it's very light. If it wasn't for like just this non-seamless joint in machining, I would say this is pretty high quality brush and would compete with any of the luxury brands for a quarter of the price. So if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. Otherwise, I'm going to hop off, and I hope that answered your question on whether the Tom Ford 06 is a worthy dupe. I mean, the Rephr 24 is a worthy dupe of the 06. Yes, it's not quite up to par, but unless you have the two to compare directly, you're not going to really see a difference. I'm just very nitpicky. So for those of you who just joined, to summarize, silkier, straighter hairs, a little bit more texture in the hairs. You can see there? There's a little bit more texture in the Rephr hairs. Pretty much the same size. Functionally, they're the same. One's just a little bit more puffed out because this one was laying on its side, but otherwise, they're pretty much the same. Only difference in the application is you have to go into the pan and pick up a little bit more pigment with the Rephr 24 compared to the Tom Ford 06. And if you have blush with any sort of dimension, like if it's not a straight matte blush, it has some sort of shimmer or shine to it, the 06 will apply it with a bit more gloss and you'll get more of a satin finish to it. Okay. I think I will get more Rephr brushes as long as they're from the permanent collection. Like, I don't like the fact that they have new ones and you're like, hey, we're going to change this in a couple months based on feedback. So I will get the permanent collection ones because now that I've found the hair quality is good, the build quality seems pretty good, I probably will get more, but I'm not going to buy sets. I'm going to get them a la carte. Yeah, the Rephr 24 is the only one I own so far. I do understand that the brand seems to copy style. The reason why I got the 24 is because it's modeled after a brush that no longer exists. I probably won't get the brushes that resemble, say, the Hakuhodo J110 because if I can have it in the 5523, there's really no reason for me to get in the Rephr line. Oh. Okay, I guess I shouldn't say does not exist already, something that I'm not aware of or is not easy to access. So if there's no more questions, I'll hop off. Thank you for watching and leave me your experiences with other Rephr brushes. I'm probably going to get more after I'm done emptying my wallet for the holiday season. So I'm going to probably just collect a few pieces that seem interesting here and there slowly. But I just wanted to talk about the 24 today because a lot of people are interested in the holiday trio. I didn't get the holiday trio because the big brush seemed like the Hakuhodo T1, which I already own, and the pencil brush seemed like the T10 and a dozen other goat hair pencil brushes I already own. But I was interested in this one because of the ability to potentially dupe this one, and it has been a successful dupe. So if you're looking into the holiday series, or just the 24 alone, I would recommend it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And if you look in the description below, once YouTube processes this video, I'm going to have a link in there to a sort of poll or survey. I'm going to be doing a series on rare hairs, so white Canadian squirrel, Kolinsky, Koyomo goat hair, red squirrel, and what was the last one I was going to do? Something else. So like rare or expensive brush hairs. And I'm taking interest to see which one has the most interest and which ones I should prioritize and do first. So that's a series I'm going to be working on and filming over the next couple weeks. I'm excited to be back and really happy to be talking about brushes again with you guys. See you next time. Bye.